Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Mind of a Minority. I'm Charles Smart. Thank you so much for joining me. In the last episode, I explained to you that there were two frequencies I wanted to talk about in regard to millimeter wave technology. The last episode was about the 95 gigahertz, and this one is going to be about the 60 gigahertz frequency. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, what I'd like to do to start this one off is just do a quick review of chemistry, because it's going to be essential in understanding exactly how what I'm explaining is occurring. So I'm going to throw up a diagram. This is the oxygen molecule and the oxygen atom. Oxygen atoms have 6 valence electrons. 2 of them are in the 2s orbital, and 4 of them are in 3 of the 2p orbitals. One of the 2p orbitals has an electron pair, while the other 2 have just single unpaired electrons. 2 oxygen atoms can form 1 sigma bond by hand-to-hand overlapping of the 2p orbitals. So notice how in this position you have 2 electrons that can overlap in a side-to-side manner. In this way, a second covalent bond is formed. Now, this is a pi bond because it results from the side-to-side overlapping of p orbitals, while the overlapping of the 2p orbitals creates a sigma bond. You have 1 pi bond and 1 sigma bond. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to do just a quick overview of what orbitals are. The orbitals are simply high probability areas where an electron may be on a particular element or molecule. And so it starts with the S and then the P, D, F. There's even like really complicated G orbitals. I don't even know how to describe them, but that doesn't matter. All you need to know is what they represent and that they're responsible for how all the atoms are going to interact with one another. So I got a graph here for you to take a look at. On the y-axis, you can see that as energy is increasing, each orbital, which is represented by a circle, is depicted on this graph here. So as you go up in energy, you have the 1s orbital where it starts in the 2s orbital, but the 3s orbital has more energy than the 2p orbital. And the 3p orbital has more energy than the 3s orbital. And then as you go out further, there's your D, and then there's your F. And like I said, there's more, but just for the sake of this demonstration, it's really overcomplicating things. All right, so why is this important? Because the attenuated molecule, oxygen, O2, when the molecule absorbs energy and the electrons become excited, it's going to change the way that the electrons would interact with their environment. And so this is where the problem lies. And the FCC, they admit that oxygen is highly interactive with the 60 gigahertz frequency. And if it's changing the formation of the electrons within the oxygen molecule, then it's most likely going to change the way that the oxygen molecules interact with the hemoglobin that's within your blood, allowing for the alveoli to pull oxygen out of the atmosphere and into your body. Because basically a hemoglobin is a protein structure, and there are 4 areas on that hemoglobin that hold an iron ion. And this iron ion has a high binding likelihood or high binding probability with oxygen molecules. So basically this iron is what is responsible for pulling the O2 out of the air and into your blood. Now, if the charge on these molecules, these oxygen molecules, are different, or if the electron configuration is different, it can interfere with the ability that iron molecule or iron ion to pull the oxygen into your system. And so the way that this is potentially weaponized is if the oxygen in the atmosphere is essentially thinned out by being supercharged with radiation. It does not have to be ionizing radiation in order to have this type of effect. And what you're not getting from these telco companies is that they don't care. This is a exact same situation with big tobacco, when the tobacco companies were adamant that their products were not harmful to humans. And as a matter of fact, they actually said that smoking had benefits. It's the exact same thing with Big Pharma and the opioid crisis. They knew full well that these compounds were manufactured from the same exact plant that makes heroin, but they were trying to deny any responsibility for the fact that they manufactured a pharmaceutical heroin and distributed it, got people addicted and therefore hooked on it, and told doctors to push it. I mean, there's a very good documentary on Netflix that you guys should check out if you're interested in that sort of thing. But I just want to put it out that the science supports the idea. What we don't have are studies that are being backed by government and by even the telecommunications companies themselves. I mean, you can see right here when they're asked plainly, are there any backed studies by the industry?
5G, as you well know, also uses higher frequency waves that don't travel as far and will rely on a network of hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of small cell sites. And the question then is, are there any health implications, any public safety implications to those additional sites that are likely to be located close to homes, schools, workplaces, and closer to the ground? Correct?
Correct, Senator. Yes.
So my question for you, particularly Mr. Gillen and Mr. Perry, how much money has the industry committed to supporting additional independent research? I stress independent research. Is that independent research ongoing? Has any been completed? Where can consumers look for it? And we're talking about research on the biological effects of this new technology.
Thank you, Senator. I think, thank you for your focus on the issue. Safety is paramount, and as you alluded to, we rely on the expert agencies, we rely on the findings of the FDA and others as to the requirements to keep all of us safe. There are no industry-backed studies, to my knowledge right now. Happy to visit with you as to what opportunities you think there needs to be more studies, and we're always for more science. We also rely on what the scientists tell us.
So essentially, the answer to my question, how much money? Zero.
I can certainly follow up with you, Senator. To my knowledge, there's no active studies being backed by industry today.
Anybody else know of industry commitments to back research, fund it, support it, to ascertain scientifically the health effect?
No, I'm not aware of any.
So there really is no research ongoing. We're kind of flying blind here, so far as health and safety is concerned.
So I hope you can see how serious this problem is in regard to just the millimeter wave frequencies that 5G is going to be operating on. This is not even beginning to scratch the surface of what's being rolled out right now. In the words of Edward Snowden, even if you trust the people who are in power today, the big tech companies who are getting all of our data, that this super high speed network is going to be able to communicate, one day you may not trust whoever is in charge. And regardless of how you look at it, what is being built is the architecture of oppression. I couldn't think of better words to describe how contact tracing, all of these potentially weaponized frequencies, and just the sheer processing power that 5G is going to allow for governments to use on, facial recognition software, locating anyone, anytime. Like, they've already proven that they can do this in China. You want to know what America is going to be like in the next 10 years? Look at China. We're already headed in that direction. I know a lot of you may not like it, but it's something that we need to work together to stop from happening. It's a very, very serious problem, and if we continue to turn a blind eye, eventually it'll be too late. The only reason that I started making this channel was to get everybody to start thinking about things in new terms, to share ideas, and to help people get perspectives that they never had before and understand what's going on or what could be going on in the world around them. Because from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. I wish you all the very best. I'll see you next time.